As an introduction to color, I think we should just do a really brief introduction to color theory so you can best understand why you might use a particular color mode. So in Illustrator, you can see that generally, and actually this is a little more expansive for what we generally see in Illustrator, but if we're looking at something that was a grayscale, okay, so we have a grayscale icon right here. If we click on the center square here, and I just want to make sure my fill is here. All right, let me just click on that again to get out of isolation mode. I can come up to my color tabs here. And in my color tabs, you can actually see that when I open this, so if you open it and you don't see that and you only see this, remember that these three horizontal lines means that you have more options. So I'm going to press show more options. But you can also see that when I'm in these in this three-line menu here, I can then move over to and select that the color mode that I want for this is to be grayscale. Now, this doesn't change it for just the square. I would change it for the document. So let's just keep that in mind. So if we click on grayscale here, you can see that it gives me a variety of values from the white to black. So I can just go ahead and select. So it would be limited. There are no colors in this as we're working on this, okay? So this would give me just the scale of gray. Now, if I go to this square right here, as long as I make sure my swatch here is up here, I'm going to go back to my menu here, and I'm going to change this now to RGB. Now, RGB is generally used for anything that is going to be shown on a screen. So it would be things like for a monitor, which would be things for the web, for example, or social media. These were all sort of live in this sort of realm. It mimics the most like color as light. If you remember that from even your Art 121 class, this is color mixing where you're mixing light. So as you're kind of looking at these three circles, so R means red, green, and blue. Okay, so we have red, green, and blue. And when we mix light together, when you mix red and blue, you get this sort of magenta color. When you do blue and green, you kind of get this turquoise sort of color. And when you mix red and green, you get yellow. And when you mix all three together, you get white. So when we're looking at under the color panel here, we actually have 256 different possibilities of each of these color dials. So if we go to red, you can see it starts from 0 and it goes to 255. So I just told you that 256 is the color range because 0 is included in this color range, which makes it 256. So you can actually see that if I move these individuals, so based on what we said, if we have red and green, you can see that as I do this, it's starting to change to this sort of bright yellow. So if I go to red and I have a full green, you can see that I have yellow, which is this color right here. So you can see I have these sort of parameters. I can go about and see what this might look like. One of the things that I want to show you is that when I'm doing this, do you see that this little icon down here is telling me that there is a warning? So I'm actually, if I click on that warning, what it's essentially saying is that I got out of range. So even though it's within this widget where I can kind of move it back and forth, when I see that it's out of range, it means that a lot of times people won't be able to see this color or the brightness of the color that we have here. So it's giving us a little bit of a warning. Additionally, it's actually gotten pretty common these days for people to use a hex code. And the hex code would go into here, and you can just usually type in the hex code, and this would match a color across different systems. Okay, so again, you're going to use RGB if you're making a product that would live on a screen. All right, let's move over to CMYK, or I'm sorry, KY or YK. I think I get this mixed up all the time. Anyways, CMYK is sienna, magenta, yellow, and then black. So the way that and why you might use CMYK is if you are doing anything that will go to print. So this is going to be super important for anything that we do in this class because we're going to print out all of our projects. This is a color mixing that is consistent with color mixing as if we're working with pigment. So this would be the subtractive color system, mixing system, and this is the additive color mixing system. So we're going to again do this up here. We're going to go up to our menu, click on this, and then we're going to change and move down to our CMYK. All right, now that I have that, you can see that I have each of these. So I have four, right? So four. So I have sienna, magenta, yellow, and black. So if I pull black all the way to the lightest here, you can see that it's not bright white. So if I go ahead and move this like this, okay, this is where we have the purest white. If I go and do this where I have black like this, we have a rich black. A lot of times people sort of ignore this. They might even leave this as zeros here and go all the way to 100% black. And you can see that if I click off of this, do you see that when we go to print, this swatch of black is not a rich black? It kind of looks more like a deep charcoal. So if you're ever printing, it's best to not just use 100% black, but to actually use all of the colors, and you move all of these over to the left in order to get a nice rich black. In any case, we get to move these individual widgets here in order to work on creating different colors. So I can kind of move this back and forth in order to develop and create new colors. So that's how that would work. Once I get a color that I like, I can actually create a new swatch. So in this menu here where I can come to the color mode, I can actually come down and press create a new swatch. And a new swatch right here, you can give it a name, or by default you can see that how much red, how much green, how much blue. So excuse me, if I'm under CMYK, I have to actually change this to the color mode that I'm working with. And then you can see that I would come in and I can either give it a name or I can go in and put in the details based on this color here. All right. So I'm going to hold off on this for just now. I'm going to press cancel because I do want to get to this last color mode here, which is HSB. H means hue, S means S means saturation, and B means brightness. So let's go ahead and click on the center of this, and we'll go up and change the color mode to HSB. And in this one here, again, you're just sort of adjusting and playing around with this slider here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to move this slider over like this, and this should actually have colors in it. Let's see, why is it? Oh, there we go. Okay. So once I place a color, right, so any sort of hue, then the saturation is how intense the color or the pureness of the color. So when I'm all the way to the right, you get the most amount of intensity of the color, and then as you move to the left, it becomes duller here. And then with your brightness here, you're getting essentially, think of brightness in this context as being more like it's dark to light, okay? So it's a little confusing because in traditional art, when we think of brightness, we're thinking of that as a condition of saturation. Whereas here, the brightness that's in this style is really thinking about it as being light to dark. All right. So that's a very general and just an introductory as a reminder of what you might have learned in our 2D design class. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and close out of this document because I just wanted to go through and just sort of recap the different color modes. Oh, I should say one more thing. So if I come back in here and I click on our color and I go back to the menu, you can see that I have not only grayscale, RGB, HSB, and CMYK, but there's also a web-safe RGB. This was actually important to use when our monitors could not necessarily read the 256 different colors that are within the gamma range. And in today's world, this would not necessarily be appropriate for what we need to, because our monitors and our screens have no problem looking and deciphering the RGB in this context here. All right, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to a new file. This file is just called Color. And you can see that I have a mandala. And the mandala here is just a simple sort of drawing, because I want to talk to you a little bit about how we can go about working with swatches. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about swatches, and then also our color guide. So color guide is embedded within the color. So I just click the different tab, or if I close that, it's this one right here. Before I get to the color guide, let's go ahead and open up our swatches. So it's just going to open up like this. And there are default colors or swatches right here, okay? The default swatches, if you don't have it, you can always find it by going into this bottom left icon, which is a series of color libraries. If you come in here and you look for different color libraries, you can see that there's actually the default color swatches. And because we selected the print when we started this document, if you press print, all of these default swatches will come back up. However, there are some of these embedded color libraries where you can use existing color libraries. So for example, if I click on Baroque here, you can see that I have a new dialog box that comes up, and you can see that I have a variety of colors, swatches here, that are based on colors that would be used during the Baroque art period in our history. So I can certainly use color libraries. You can create your own color libraries, and you can additionally, upload new color libraries. So if you find some sort of free asset online, you can upload any of these or upload a new color library. But in any case, this gives you lots of different types of colors and color choices. So that would be the first thing that I would say. The next thing is that if you don't see this, it could be that instead of showing all color swatches, you might actually only be seeing the color swatches instead of it being all of them. You can also see only color gradients or only patterns swatches, or you can only see color groups. And I'll talk to you about that in just a moment. So I'm just going to press all color swatches. If you're not seeing all of the color swatches after you've checked the default in the color libraries here, this would be the next place for you to come and look. Okay, so this next icon here is how we can go about creating individual swatches, where we can not only name it, we can talk about whether it's process or a spot color. We can create a global color, which I'm going to talk to you about in just a minute, change our color mode, etc. Okay. Most of the time, instead of starting out at sort of ground zero, most of the time people will do one of two things. So if you see a color within a hue that you're interested in, so say, for example, I'm interested in a brown, but I need to mix it. So I might go in and select the brown here in the swatch here, and it comes up over here for my fill. Then I can double click on this, and when I double click on this, it gives me this brown. But say that this was sort of in the family or the hue of that I'm looking for, but I actually want it to be a little bit deeper or darker, but not as dark as this one is here. So I can use this color picker to move around to select a color. Now, the way that this works is that it's light to dark, so it's light to dark here, but it's also light to highly saturated, or more of the color that's in here. So as we sort of move from here, it is going to be duller, more gray, and then as we move across, it's going to be more of the color. And then if we go from top here, we have the lightest version of this color, and then moving down where we have the darkest. So that's how we kind of like look at this. All right, so now that I have a swatch that I like, I can just go ahead and press OK. I can add this new color to my swatches panel by clicking on this button here where it just has the plus symbol, okay? And when I have the plus symbol, you can see that by default, it kind of gives me the CMYK. And then you can see that I have it just set as process color. Let's just use that for now. I am going to explain what the difference of a spot color is, but when we have a process color, and then let's go ahead and turn and make sure that the global is turned off. And we'll just go ahead and press OK. Now you can see that when, not only when it's activated, you can see it's highlighted, but you can see it's been added to my swatches panel here. So I'm going to go ahead and let's just select something. So for the nature of this, I'm just going to select this shape here. And you can see that when I did it, it was already grouped. So let's go ahead and ungroup that. That would be Shift Command G. And I'm going to deselect that. And now I'm going to come back in and I'm just going to select this shape here. And let's go ahead and select the color that I just made. So I'm going to click the brown here. And once I have that, let's go ahead and add some brown in some other areas. So I'm going to select this shape here. And I have to be able to select the other one. So I'm going to press the Shift key so I can quickly go around and click and select all of these, so that I have all of them selected, and I'm going to press this brown again. Okay, so this is the beginning of this, and you remember when the option is I did not select global. So what this means is, say that I go into this shape here, or actually let's go back here. Let's go to the smaller shape here. If I were to double click either on here or here, so let's just go ahead and double click in the swatches menu like this, and I make an adjustment. Okay, I'm going to make an adjustment and have something slightly different. When I do that, it only affects one shape that I have selected. And that means that if I want to make sure that these all match, I have to go in and select everything all over again. Instead, so I'm going to just do Command Z. Okay, instead what I can do is if I click on this, and it doesn't matter if you actually click on this, you just need to click on the swatch here. I'm going to double click on the swatch here, and now I'm going to select global. I'm going to press global, and I'm going to press OK. I'm going to select off on the artwork here, and you can see that when it became global, do you see that it created this little triangle at the bottom of my swatch? Now when I come in and I double click on this and I make any sort of adjustment, it will actually change. It should be changing any instance that I actually used. It looks like it's not doing that. That's not good. So let's see, what is going on? Why is that happening here? Let's go ahead and just select everything and see if it does it here. I don't really want to select everything here, but let's just see. I'm going to click on this, press global. Yeah, that didn't work like that. Let me undo this. Let me see what's going on here. It should be that once I press global, anytime I change it, it should change everything else. So let's do that here. Click out of isolation mode. I'm going to click on this, double click on this, and let's see if we make... All right, so do you see what it did? It actually is picking up the other things. It's probably because when I clicked on this, let's see, did it actually save it as as global? My guess is that I didn't actually do that. So that's why it's doing that. So we'll go ahead and do this. One easy way to select this, so actually I'll just do this. I click on this, and you can see it's global, and then I come up here, I click on this. Whoops, I don't need to be, let's just leave it in isolation mode. It won't change anything. And I click on this, it's global. Okay. Let's click on this one here. Is this one also global? Yeah, so it should actually be changing anything that is listed as global. If I make an adjustment, those adjustments, oh, see, so something is kind of funky going on. I wonder if I just need to restart my computer. In any case, it should go ahead and affect any of the colors once it is considered global. So keep that in mind. I don't want to stop what I'm doing right now to restart my computer, but I'm guessing there is some, since I've had it open, I've been doing lots of work in here. I'm guessing that I just need to restart it. Okay, so global, and the only way it's going to let me circumvent this is if I go through and so I think with the purpose of this, instead of, now that I have an actual color, I'm going to go to select, and I'm going to go to same, and then go to color fill, and it should pull up everything that's the same color. So you see the ones like these two, this one, and this one did not come up. It's because it is, I've changed it, and this is the little fluke that's happening in this particular document. So I'm gonna double click, make sure it's global. And then once I've done that, lets me go back to select, go to same, and do fill color. And now do you see that everything that is in that range, so if I just come to one of these things, or say that I don't even select that, I click on the swatch here and I make adjustments, and it should make the adjustments. There you go. It's making the adjustments to everything. So it should work on your end. Um, if not, you can see one way that I was able to see that is by going in and using the function of select and selecting everything that was that color. All right. Now, that's why it would be important to use a process color that is, it actually doesn't have anything to do with a process color. It just needs to be a spot color. Not spot color. Oh my gosh. I think it's just too late. It needs to be a global color for this to work. All right. Let's say the next thing is that I have to color this, but I don't know what colors to use. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this brown as sort of my starting point. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of using the libraries, I'm going to come up to this color guide. Now, when I come into the color guide, you can see that my base color is this brown because I had it selected. So you see how it's right here. And now what I can do is this selection of colors is based on rules of harmony, color harmonies. So if you took 2D design, you might be familiar with color harmonies that are complementary or split complementary, analogous, monochromatic, etc. So you can actually use some of these. So let's just select one of these. I'm going to go ahead and just do high contrast like this. And then when I have my high contrast, you can see that I have some of them are global here. I can also sort of adjust these. So right now it goes from shades to tints. If I come down to, if I come down to this window, let's see, I should be able to, this is the color libraries. I should be able to change this to changes from, oh, it's right here. I was looking at an older version. It used to be down here, so it must have been moved up in an earlier or a newer version. So anyways, I have it under tints and shades, but I can also select and say, I want to actually see warm and cool, something like this, or vivid and muted. But for the sake of this, let's just stay with tints and shades, okay? I'm going to come back up to this menu and I'm going to come to color guide options, okay? And when I come to the color guide options, I might want to increase the number of steps. And what this essentially does is it gives me more color range, which would include more tints and more shades. So let's say I can move this up to 8 and I press OK. You can see that I've gotten a lot more color variations here, and I can always come into the corner here and drag out so I can see a bit of colors here. I can also, if I go through, so let me just deselect on this so it doesn't modify this. I'm going to go through and I'm just going to randomly select a variety of colors here. So if you hold down, so I'm going to deselect, if you click once and then you hold down the shift, it will select everything that's within that range. If you click on this and you hold down the option, then it will let you click on just individual swatches here. Okay, so once I have some swatches here like this, I can go ahead and I can save these colors as into my swatches here. So I'm going to go ahead and just press save colors as swatches. And when I come down to my swatches panel, do you see that now it's created with this, when it shows a folder, it's called a color group. So I'm just going to double click on the color group here. And you can see I actually can give it a name here. And so let's go ahead and just do demo swatches just so that I can give it some sort of name. Okay. All right. So we're going to save it. So we'll just go press yes. And you can see that I have colors here. I can always click on this and I can trash it. So I can delete some excess swatches. I can also, you can see that I've already done this. So I can go ahead and just delete those as well. And now what I can do is within this range here, which was in the color guide, it allows me to now come in and say, okay, I know that there's going to be color harmony because I use that in through the color guide. And now I can come in and select individual shapes like this, and I can use the guide to color in some different things here. So now that I've selected this, let's go ahead and change the color here. Then I can come in and do maybe all these small ones. Again, I'm holding the shift key in order to be able to select these individually, and then I can give them a color. So let's take a moment right now and we'll just go ahead and color in our color here. I see here that I accidentally got the outline, so I'm going to go and just do undo here so that I can grab just the centers here. So make sure that you know where you're clicking. Don't get off to the side like I just did, so that it's only the center that is changing. Okay, and then I'll pick that color again. All right, and when I select off, you can see that my black outline stayed there. All right, so let's just take a moment. We'll go ahead and just colorize one of these mandalas here. I don't know if I necessarily like this color grouping right now, but it will work for what we're doing. Okay, so, all right, so I have all the center here, and let's give that this color here. All right, let's see. Oops. Be careful that you don't select the black. Okay. All right. Let's do, let's actually do this one. Okay. Whoops. Oops. Made a mistake here. So let me undo that one. Let me select off that and just select on the center here. I'll go ahead and select that. There we go. And then I have one more shape here, which I will just do a dark there. All right, so here is a colorized mandala, and you can see I utilized a color theme based on our color guide. Okay, all right. The next thing that I want to do is, and I'm actually going to zoom out. So let's go ahead and just for this activity, you can go ahead and color in the other two by selecting a different variations within the color guide. You can also change and develop your own swatches here, or you can come into your swatches panel and you can create a new group. Okay, I'm going to do the recolor in this file here instead. Okay, so I have in this color, I have this cool pattern in here. Okay, so I already have an existing pattern. I'm going to go ahead and select it. I'm going to go to recolor. And I'll do the same thing here where I go to the generative recolor here. And you can see based on the colors that are here, it has some examples of prompts that we can explore. So you can certainly kind of go in, and if you click on any of these, it will use this as a sample to generate a color scheme here. So you can go through and look for any of these that might work, or you can go in and type in your own prompt. And I'm actually going to type in a prompt of arts and crafts. Um, we'll just do that, arts and crafts, and we're going to just press generate and see what comes up. Okay, so now what it's doing is that it's going to give me some options. So if I click on these options, you can see how it went about recreating based on arts and crafts, which is an art movement in art history. Okay. You can always regenerate. So if you want something different, or you can add a color. So say that I want a color, I'm going to click on a color and say, I want a design of in arts and crafts that's based on this color. So I'm going to press generate here. And let's see what the new ideas that come up. So now I have something like this one right here that's super bright. This one, I like this one a bit better. It's a little more monotone here. This one has a little more vibrancy, and then certainly this one is really bright. Now, say that I don't want this, I can always come up and press reset, and it will take me back to my original image here. All right, I can go to Recolor. So I did this one here, but I can go to Recolor, and let's talk a little bit about how it can recolor. So just like what we've been doing, or what I showed you with the color library. So this color library, this is the same thing that you would see under swatches where you can load in existing color libraries, or you can load in a new color library. So I can come in here and I can load in a new color library, like let's go with Impressionism. Now that I have Impressionism, the way that this works right now is that the number of colors is just auto right now. But I can actually, so it's linked right now. So if I'm working with this and I move any of these around, it will make adjustments to the other colors. So you see how it's giving me some color harmonies based on how many colors and where I'm actually selecting this. I can also change how I'm seeing this. So I can change it here like this. I can also change it like this. So I can make some adjustments to the colors based on this. I can also come in and pick whether I want it to be saturation or if I want it to be volume. So if I want it to be light and dark, I can also come in and work with different range of values and saturations in here. So I can come in and sort of tweak this. You can see that I have this one dominant color here, and as long as that stays as sort of the dominant color, the other ones will work along with this. And this is based on Impressionism. So if I move this to, let's go to Renaissance, okay? Now that I have something in Renaissance here, I can say, this is my prominent color here, and I want this to be more prominent. So I'm going to change the proportions of my colors here based on just moving and sliding this over. So I can actually change how prominent one of the colors is versus another. I can have them equally prominent. And here you can see a bit more of the light to dark. And then here you can see where I have it being, whether it's highly saturated, dark here, and then super bright here. So almost like highlighter colors. So I can certainly make adjustments like this. So this is one way that we can do this. You can also come in and name how many colors. So say that it only can have 3 colors. So you can limit the color range here that you would like. It's totally up to you. You can always say that you get to something that you don't like or don't want. You can always press reset and it will take you back to the original colorization of your image here. All right, the next thing I want to show you is we can actually use an existing image to build our, oops, let me see, I'm trying to move this over. There we go. Let me zoom out a little bit. I think that might be a little better for us to see here. Let me move this here. So we have this this artwork here, and I can use an existing artwork or a photo, for example, and I can actually have the colors sort of aligned with the colors from the photo. And this is by using the color theme picker. So if I use the color theme picker, it will allow me to come over and then click on, and it will change the colors based on this artwork, okay? I can also do this here to see how I'm doing this. And remember, I can always sort of adjust the colors that are in here, and then I can also do this. Now, you can also do one additional thing. You can actually draw a segment. So say that I only want this sort of colors from this part of this photo in this. So I'm going to deselect here, and you can see if it has shifted or changed any of the variables here. This is a relatively new feature within Illustrator, but I do think it's super helpful to kind of look at and determine what you might like and how it might actually alter or shift any of your colors. So I did that 3 times and nothing changed there. So let's see, what if I go to 3, and then let's go into here and see if it picks up 3. It just really kind of, it did pick up the orange, this sort of dark blue, and then this. It didn't change the purple. So again, once you do the color theme picker, oops, remember you can always double click and turn that back on. And then I'm going to come back, I'm going to click on this and then select something in here like this, for example. I can come in and just click on different things. Remember, I can change the variables in this, right? So say that in here, I want it to be maybe 4 colors, and I'm going to come back in here. Well, it's really only picking up 2 colors from here with some small variations here. So I can actually sort of move this around and move it along here. So it's kind of locking in based on what I have here. So you can go ahead and play with these individual components. You can also unlock this. And when you unlock this, it allows you, oops, I'm not sure what's happening there. Let's go. Then we can move these independently. Well, we should be able to move them independently because, oh, right here. I just needed to unlock it again. I'm going to click on this, and now I can move these independently. Okay, so that is another way to do this. Again, I can also come to Color Theme Picker, and I can come in, and now I'm getting more colors. Good. So I needed to just unlock that. Okay, so here I'm getting a little bit more colors here. It doesn't work perfectly, but it definitely gives you some options, and it allows you to look at something that you might actually like an image and try to match some of the color schemes here. All right, so this is how you would recolor an image. And if you like the way that this looks, I can go ahead. All you have to do is you should be able to just either press escape or click on the background. There you go. And now we have a new colorization for this particular pattern here.